Narcissistic men are horrible, abusive people to everyone in their lives. They are horrible sons, abusive brothers. They are horrible husbands and horrible fathers. They feel entitled to use, abuse, ostracize, and chastise every single person in their life. Narcissistic men are wounded men that have not ever looked in the mirror to self-reflect on who they are and the type of morals they have, their behavior. They not one time looked within to figure out why they are so angry, why they are so sad, why they are so hurt. All they do is push all of their emotions down, suppress them, swallow them, and they don't deal with them. Whenever a narcissistic man loses his parents and he is dealing with that grief, all of that grief is pushed down, it's suppressed, and it is like a ticking time bomb. When they don't deal with their grief and they do not properly heal, they bleed on everyone else. They expel all of that negative energy onto everybody else because grief is intense emotion, and we have to allow ourselves to grieve. When we don't allow ourselves to grieve, all of that emotion gets stored within the body, within the mind, within the heart, and it's revamping your nervous system to where you are very emotionally reactive to those different stages of grief. When you think of grief, there are 5 stages of grief. There is anger, denial, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. When you're dealing with a narcissist, they do get to the point of acceptance of their grief. So when they lose a parent, lose a loved one, they do accept that their parent or guardian or caregiver has passed away and they are no longer coming back, and they have to live the rest of their lives without that person physically here on this earth. They do reach acceptance, but everything else, all of the other stages, is where they get stuck. They very much get stuck in the anger portion. And they get very angry, very impulsive, very reactive. They're not as responsive, just very reactive. And if you have ever dealt with grief and you've dealt with the anger of grief, it is very intense. It is an anger that is agonizing. And that agonizing anger turns into rage when it is suppressed for so long. That is why narcissists tend to rage so much at any and everything, because they are suppressing all of that grief. You definitely see a difference between narcissists that have parents that are living versus parents that are deceased. Those that have parents that are living are in a little bit more control of their emotions because they have their safety net still alive. They have somebody to fall back on. However, when they have parents that are deceased, they feel they can act however they want to act because they don't have to answer to anybody, their parent. Also, they deal with the depression. And depression is not always a person being sad and just to themselves, but the depression could be them just going on about their day, going to work, doing everything that they need. But the depression can come in them being emotionally unavailable, not being able to be nurturing, not being able to be supportive, and emotionally neglectful is where the depression kicks in, because they are suppressing their emotions. When their emotions are suppressed, they become depressed. This is why they are so emotionally unavailable, because they are not able to handle their own emotions, and they are not emotionally available to themselves, so they cannot be that for their children. And their children are not understanding why their parent is so cold and distant. It's because they're very depressed. They also are in a loop of denial. And they can be in denial of various things, but when they are in that constant loop of denial, there is no clear focus, there is no clarity, there is no wisdom. So their mind is clouded and foggy, and they are unable to think clearly and think with maturity and wisdom. Then when it comes to the bargaining, they're going back and forth on whether they want to move forward, whether they want to heal, whether they want to stay sad, whether they want to be angry, whether they want to continue on living as they're living, or whether they want to change. They're going back and forth because they are unsure on what is the best option for them to take. And because they do little to no self-reflection, they are unable to discern their own emotions and the root causes of where it is coming from. So they are unable to decipher what is the best option for them to move forward. How can they have a healthy choice and decision in moving forward with their lives? Narcissistic men push everyone away from them. They abuse everyone in their lives, and they will die alone because no one wants to put up with that abuse anymore.